Hello and welcome to the Skilling Podcast, where we chat and get to know passionate content creators, competitive players, and all the voices who make the Pokemon community incredible. Today's guest is no exception. He is a self-proclaimed Silly Conkeldurr fan, placed 5th at Milwaukee in 2023, a top 130 player in Worlds in 2023 as well, has 21 tour wins to his name, 72 cuts. He does some coaching as well. He helps run the Chilling Neigh podcast, which we'll plug a little bit later. It's our friend Rushil, or ConkledonkVGC. How you doing, my friend?
What is up, everybody? I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Awesome. Yeah, we're psyched. I mean, we were just chatting before we hit record here, and I mean, you have some awesome. I mean, I know you said you just got, you've been battling VGC since 2020, but you really got into things, especially this year. It's really cool to kind of look at your teams and the success that you've had right off the bat. And we're excited to dive into that, learn more about your team building. But first and foremost, we just want to get to know you a little bit more, have our listeners, our viewers get to know you as well. Obviously you got to go to Japan for Worlds. Aside from the tournament itself, I've been watching a ton of YouTube videos of people on, their trip out there to Yokohama, talking about like getting to know people, the food out there, doing stuff outside of the tournament. So aside from the tournament itself, what are some of your favorite moments from that trip?
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy whirlwind of a trip, because it's funny because I went to this year not thinking that I was gonna make it to Worlds, or even push for it in the first place, and it kind of I'll get into all how it happened later, but it was kind of a surprise, and so I hadn't really saved my PTO for Worlds, really. I didn't think, I was oh, I should account for that, and I had a pretty crazy year, just life wise, and so I pretty much had to book, I had to move stuff around, and I pretty much freed up time for the tournament, and that was it, really, in terms of I was there, I got in the day before the tournament started, and then I left the day after. So it was a short trip, but a ton of fun. I think the biggest thing is just when you make friends in the community and you're able to hang out with them. Like you said, I host the co-host the Chilling Neigh podcast with two of my close friends, Tommy Hayden and then Ryan Lassetto, who's also known as Silly VGC, and both of them were Worlds competitors as well, and so we got to spend a ton of time hanging out outside of just the tournament itself and go hang out, and the food was incredible. Just a really different culture. So it was really cool trip. It was really hot, super hot. So I was
really
so that was something that caught me off guard, but overall I think it was just such a blast of a trip.
Dude, I gotta ask you quick, how does that PTO request go when you're like I gotta go be a Pokemon master, I gotta go kick some butt out there?
Honestly,
that's gonna be an awesome PTO request.
Yeah, it was funny because it was nothing but support.
That's awesome.
CFO, I work at a bit of a smaller branch, I guess, of a company, and so I work pretty directly with the CFO, and my boss, and literally the CFO was that's so, you have to share that with on the company intranet, that's so cool.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And my boss is a little bit of a gamer too, so he's that's sick. Send any live streams we make it and stuff like that. He watched my Milwaukee live stream. He was super about it. So they were all waiting to see what my result was after I came back. So they were really excited about it.
That's dope.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Super cool.
That's awesome. And congrats, by the way, for making it there. I mean, that's pretty. It's just impressive in your first official circuit run. You were able to make it, and I can't remember how many people were at Worlds, because top 130 seems like you made it pretty high up.
Yeah, there was maybe 350-ish, maybe give or take 25 or so, something like that. So I had a pretty good run. I went 4-3. I'm still a little bit upset at myself because I was super close to day 2. I literally had a winning into day 2, and I was up a game in the set, and then I just kind of and I had a really good I lost game 2 handily, but then game 3 I had a great early game, and then I just kind of let it slip, and so kicking myself a little bit, but overall, like going positive at Worlds, my first try was still pretty special for me.
Awesome. I love that, man. Now getting kind of into, we've been obviously stalking you on Twitter all week, just trying to make sure, we get good things to talk about and things. And I noticed, that there was a post that you did where you're shouting out to the universe that the Netflix Avatar adaptation would be great. We just have curious, we're curious to ask you, what kind of books, series, shows have inspired you throughout your life? What other things are you into? And like, what do you keep up on?
Yeah, I am a huge Avatar guy. Love Avatar and Korra. I'm like a huge Harry Potter nerd, like really big Harry Potter nerd. I watch like all the movies every year. I've read the books and I've listened to the books, and so big. Like me and my fiance go to like Harry Potter World in Orlando like pretty much every year.
Nice.
Sometimes
that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then Attack on Titan, which just finished. Like I love like I'm still getting some more animes and stuff like that, but Attack on Titan was like probably one of my favorite shows of all time. And then like I love like a lot of like Marvel stuff. Like I'm a big like if it's like a fantasy world or something like that, like I'm about it generally. So like
you're there. Yep.
I consume pretty much all MCU content, whether it's the shows or the movies. I also like The Boys and like superheroes, like in that sort of sense, like The Boys, Gen V, all that stuff. So yeah, if it's like some sort of like fantasy world, count me in. Like I'm usually about it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I got 2 questions following up with that then. So what house are you in Harry Potter? I gotta know. And then after that, have you seen the trailer for the new What If for MCU?
Yeah, so I'm a Slytherin, which I know will garner some controversy, but I consider myself, one of the good people in Slytherin. So, and then I have seen the trailer for What If. I think What If is one of the better Disney Plus shows that they've come out with, and I've saw that they're also releasing all 9 episodes like in 9 days in a row, which is like super exciting. Like I think that concept is super cool too. Like I think the first season was really good, so I'm super excited.
I agree. I think What If had some really good gems in there. Like I think Star-Lord T'Challa was one of my favorites, and then
that was a good one.
It's just like fun to see them expand that universe and see what they can do there. And don't worry, my wife's a Slytherin too, so I'm a Gryffindor, she's a Slytherin, and so it works out. So it's all fun.
It keeps things lively at home. It keeps things lively.
I'm a Slytherin. My fiance is a Hufflepuff, so it's a combo you probably would have never expected, but it works. It works.
I love it.
I love it. It's funny. Everyone who gets Hufflepuff, I feel like they're almost like their guttural reaction is to be like, "That's not true," or they're like almost offended by it because it's Hufflepuff is Hufflepuff. It's not one of the main houses, but it's funny because my wife, she's also big into Harry Potter, and it was a while ago, but I think when she was younger, she got Gryffindor, and it had been a while, and we started dating and got engaged and everything, and she's like, I need to do this again. And I got Hufflepuff, and then she got Hufflepuff too, and she's like, no, that's not accurate. They must have changed the algorithm in the quiz or something like that. But anyway, it's funny.
Like the exact same story with my fiance is like before we were dating or anything like that. Like when we started dating, she was like, "I'm a Gryffindor, 100%." And after a while today, I was like,
"That's so funny."
I don't think you are. Like, let's try this again. Like, and then we did the test and stuff like that. And she kept getting Hufflepuff, and then she was going through like the denial at first, and then she accepted it, and she's embraced it.
Finally accepted it.
I love it.
That's so funny, dude. Yeah, that's so funny.
Hufflepuff.
Yeah, no, Logan and I are the same way. Big on fantasy stuff. Yeah, outside of Pokemon, big on fantasy stuff. Love Marvel, love Star Wars, The Boys, Game of Thrones, all that stuff. We love doing D&D. I got my Anakin Skywalker shirt on right now. So,
that's awesome.
But no, yeah. But at the end of the day, Pokemon is one of the big things that made us really tight as friends. And want to ask you more about Pokemon as well. So, as kind of a follow up to this, first and foremost, tell us about how Conk became your favorite Pokemon. It's an iconic mon from Gen 5. But in addition to that, tell us how you got into Pokemon, how you got into VGC and competitive as a whole as well.
Yeah. So I've loved Pokemon since I was a kid. Grew up playing the games. I think like for me, actually, it's funny because like Conk's my favorite mon, but like Gen 4 was probably my favorite gen, and that's like, 'cause that's the one I really like got obsessed with and like was starting with, and like I played those games maybe a million times. And it's funny because like Gen 5 was probably actually one of my like, initially I like, it took time for me to love Gen 5 the way I do now, but like initially I was like,
A lot of people say that,
yeah, I was like, what are these Pokemon designs? Like in terms of like, there was like Garbodor, it was like, that's just a trash bag, and I forget, there was like just like a bunch of inanimate, like Chandelure was like, that's just literal chandelier. I was
a
like,
candle, it's a chandelier. Yeah.
I was like, what is this? And then but I saw Conkeldurr, I was like, that's pretty dope. Like just like a buff dude that's just like carrying two pillars and is gonna smack you. Like
That's
pretty
sick.
cool.
Like, that's
so I was
dope.
like, all right, I'll play with Conk in Gen 5, and then over time, like I start to like the other mons too, and I've grown to love a lot of the mons from Gen 5. Honestly, a bunch of them are some of my favorites. So. But yeah, Conk was one of the probably like the first ones I liked in that gen, and it helped me spread my love for that gen, and so it just kind of it stuck with me. And it's funny because like, so I played Pokemon when I was a kid, and then I think I took a break for a while in terms of like playing Pokemon a lot because I just went to college and stuff like that. Even in high school, like you're just like doing other stuff, but like every once in a while I'd play Gen 4 run, like I'd rerun Gen 4 or something, or Gen 5, and then college I kind of took a break from Pokemon. But then like in my senior year, like senior year, I was like rooming with like a couple of my like best friends, and like they were like Pokemon fans too, and so we started doing like Nuzlocke and stuff like that. I was like, oh, let me get like, and so I got back into it, got 3DS, and then got a Switch, and I was like, let me play all these games that I've been like missing out on. And then COVID hit, and I already had the Switch. I was already like playing Pokemon, but like I never knew about VGC until 2020. Like I didn't even know about it growing up. I would just play the games like as the games. I wasn't really like playing online or like competitive stuff like that, and so like I didn't even know about it until like I started playing. Like I was playing Sword and Shield, and once COVID hit, I was like playing through all my games. And once I like got through Sword and Shield, I was like, let me start playing some singles. I was like, I've played the game so many times. I was like, let me just start playing on like exploring more. And I saw the battle stadium and started playing, and I started looking at videos more, and I saw like Collinsville regional finals, like Wolf versus Andrew Ding, and I was like, this is sick. And I started watching some Wolf videos, and then I really got into VGC, and it's pretty much taken off since there.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's so cool, dude.
Yeah,
man, like I can't believe, like, I mean, you weren't even like to me, like your skill level, and I mean, this, I just think you get into, you know, since 2020, like you didn't even know before that. That's really cool that, you know, you kind of found that dedication, and you were able to kind of, you know, put the passion to the, you know, almost pedal to the metal, and, you know, get into that more kind of into your content or into your expertise and things like that. You know, you have a pretty impressive rap sheet from last season. With a 5th place win in Milwaukee with the regional there. Your team there was Goldango, Glamora, Talonflame. You had Pommy, Pomot. What's the Fallen Evolution? Is that Pomot? Is that what?
Pomot.
And then you have Tatsugiri. It's the stretchy one, the yellow one. Is that right? And then
the stretchy form.
And then you had Dodonzo too, which I know you're a big fan of Dodonzo. And so kind of talk to us about that run. Like, you know, it's probably your one of your best feats throughout the season. And kind of, I watched it back the replay a little bit, but I was kind of curious, you know, if you wanted to kind of go through that and that team and things you liked about it.
Yeah. Milwaukee to this day, it's just like, it was honestly such a incredible experience. And it's funny because so going into that tournament, I had 200 CP, which the bar in North America for that season was 300 CP, and to get to Worlds. And so I was like, well, first of all, actually, my season wasn't even, I was never even supposed to go to Milwaukee. My season was going to be, I was going to, like, my whole plan was I was going to go to Knoxville, Vancouver, and Hartford, and that was it. And I wasn't going to push for Worlds or anything. I was like, let me see how good I could be in my first season, and then, you know, maybe next year, like the year afterwards, I'll make a serious run. And so I was like, let me just try to do, like, get CP at one tournament. Let me try to, like, get some sort of placing at one tournament. And my first tournament, like Knoxville, I did really well. I started 5-0, and then ended up finishing 6-3, missing day 2, but immediately got points, and I got points at actually every tournament I went to that season, and I had like, so I had built up 200 CP going into like after Hartford, and my birthday was like right after that, and I was like tweeting out like, oh, it's, you know, my birthday, like what's up? And some of my friends were like, come on, like that can't be, like you need to push for world, like just come to Milwaukee, we'll just hang out, even if you don't want to push for worlds, like let's just, you know, let's
just go for it,
you know, hang out for your birthday and stuff like that afterwards. And so Milwaukee was actually, it's kind of a funny story about the timing, and I'll talk about that later, but well, I guess I'll just say now, I literally proposed like the Thursday after Milwaukee, but I was like, I am just gonna go have a good time and then come back and get engaged, and like let's just do this. And
I love it.
That'll be my season. And I went to Milwaukee, and I was literally like writing like my proposal speech like on the plane to Milwaukee. I was like, all right, let me like use this time. And so I was like, I was going into it with like, all right, you know what, like even if I go 0-3 drop, or, you know, 0-9, like I'm getting engaged in like a couple days. Like I don't, you know what, like obviously I want to always do well, but like I'm not gonna put pressure on this, like to try to, because I needed top 8 to get worlds. Like I needed the 100 CP, I needed every bit of it, and I was like, that, like I haven't even though I've been so close every single time, I haven't made day 2 yet. Like I'm probably like making top 8 is a pipe dream. Like there's no way that's happening. So I'll just enjoy it, and whatever happens. And then and then round 1, and I'd been playing that same team since like the very start of Regulation C. Like, and that was like towards the endish of Regulation C. It was the second to last tournament, and I had been playing the same team over like the whole time, and that, honestly, at that time, like I don't even think it was a good meta call. Like there was a very popular team comp called New Balance, which was like Gyarados, Tinglu, Iron Hands, Fluttermane, something else I'm forgetting, but basically just Amoonguss and one other, but god awful matchup. It was super hard, and that was like the most common team, and I was like, I don't know, like I'm just gonna go in with a comfort and hope for the best, and like because I knew my lines, because I was so comfortable with playing it. And then round 1, I get paired with like this really weird like Magnezone Discharge team with like double ground types, and like I'm like, okay, like, you know, I should be able to beat this, and I just get Discharge paras like left and right and get full para, and I just lose. And I'm 0-1 to start the day, and I'd never started 0-1. Like, that was the first time I started 0-1. And I was like, I guess that's it for me. Like, like this was fun, but like, all right, I guess I'll just play it out. Hope, like, see how much I can end the season with in terms of CP and have a good time. I was like, no, at that point, it's over. And then somehow, I got a win, and I got another win, and I was like, all right, feeling good, and I ended up winning 8 straight sets, and like not just like any sets. Like I was facing like Leonard Kraft, who's like a very good player. Like he just cut a tournament recently, but he's a historically very, very good player. And then I faced Pengy, or he's an Indianapolis regional champ, and one of my friends, and I beat him, and so like I was playing actually like pretty good people along the way as well, like very good people, and somehow like I think just like the lack of pressure I put myself, and the way that I was like playing, I was like, okay, like this is really cool, like whatever. And so I made my first day 2. I was so excited. I was like, this is a win no matter what. Like I'm not gonna put pressure on day 2 or on what happens tomorrow, because like this is my first day 2. I'm about to get engaged. I don't care. And so I went out, like a lot of people, what they'll do is like, there's a mix of philosophy, I think, in terms of like people who make day 2 is like, some of them will just prep because they really want to like that night and say, okay, like how could like prep into the teams tomorrow? Like what can I do? Practice my matchups. And then there's the philosophy that I went was like, let's go party. And so I literally went out to the bars with like a bunch of the VGC guys. We stayed out till like 2 a.m. and like my friend had to pull me from the bar and was like, you have to play day 2 tomorrow. Like, I think there's a really funny picture on Twitter that my friend Moxie, like everyone knows him, Moxie Boosted, or Marcos. He was out the club too, and he like posted a picture. He's literally like a Snapchat of me, and he's like, "Bro has to play day 2 tomorrow. Like, what is he doing?" But I had such a blast. I woke up and I just like pounded a few coffees, and I was like, "All right." And at that point, yeah, and I was like, I think I was 8-1. I was like the 4 seed, or like one of the top. No, actually, I think it was one of the lower. I was like 11th seed, 13th, like something like that, going into day 2. But 8-1 going into day 2, like you have a pretty good shot at cut if you get some early wins. And actually, my my schedule in day 2 was actually probably like the most absurd schedule that you can even have, because I had I think round 9 or round 10 at that point. So like the first round of day 2, you play 5 rounds of Swiss. And the first one I play is against Brian Yum, who people don't know. Brian Yum ended up winning that tournament, and he only had 2 sets that he lost throughout the entire tournament. I think one in day 1, and then I was his only loss in day 2. And so I beat him round 10, and then I face here. Actually, let me pull it up because like it was truly insane. I think like my resistance coming out of day 2 was 80%, which is like absurd. Like people, like for people's knowledge, I guess like resistance is like your opponent's combined win percentage, and normally it's around like a good one is like 65%. Like 70% is like you played a really hard schedule. Others like it ranges between like 50 to 70%. 70% is really in the high end. I had 80%.
80 is just ridiculous.
Everyone I played in day 2 made top cut. So I faced Brian Yum round 10. So like round 1 of day 2. Round 2 I faced Zishu Ding, who had gotten second at Portland regionals against and lost to Joe Ugarde. And then I faced Paul Chua, and so I beat him. And then I faced Paul Chua, and Paul Chua is like my personal gatekeeper. It's like the most one-sided rivalry ever. Like he just wipes the floor with me every time because like I faced him at like pretty much I think every regional I went to, and he beat me like every time. And it's always because like it didn't help that he always had like just a great team matchup into me, like a fantastic team. Like, he had like the perfect counter team. And like he's also just one of the best players like ever, and so so like him with the team matchup, like I just had no chance, and so I lost to him. And then I faced Austin Acosta, who also made cut, and he was like consistently like a top 16 player at like a bunch of tours that season, really good. And then I played James Evans on stream, and James Evans is a former world champion. He's caught a million tournaments, and I faced him on stream, and I beat him in game 1, and then I make a pretty hard read, like aggressive read in game 2, and it doesn't pay off. And it's fine. I have a like leg up, so I'm okay like making that read. And then game 3, I have a win like pretty much like secured, except he gets a double protect, and like it's annoying because so in game 1 actually I got a double protect, but I didn't need it to win because I would always win no matter what, even if I got it or didn't. But I did, and it made it even easier, but I didn't need it. But in game 3 he got a double protect, and it very much mattered. Like it changed the end game completely, and if he didn't get that, I win. And it really bit me because of that loss, I ended up at the 5th seed, and Paul Chua, who is the only person I didn't want to face in cut, ended up as the 4 seed, and because of how he lost his last round too, and so we ended up facing each other in the first round of top 8, and I like predict everything. I'm like playing out of my mind, and it didn't matter at all because the matchup was so brutal. That was like I could do everything right, and there's just nothing. There's no way
it's gonna happen.
But like I was still so emotional afterwards because I top 8 is all I needed. I mean, it was like I got 5th out of like 600 people, which was like, or 614 players in the tournament, which was like,
that's insane.
It was so cool. But even more so was like, I secured my invite. Like I was like crying, calling my fiance. I was like, "They're like, you're not gonna believe it, but I'm booking a trip to Japan in August." Like, and and it's funny because like that Worlds was actually like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks before my like future sister-in-law's wedding. And so like I was like,
Oh,
hey
wow.
guys, like sorry, like I'm gonna go to Japan for like 5 days real quick and then I'll be back and then we'll do the wedding
I'll
stuff.
be right back,
So,
I promise.
yeah. But
That's cool.
just an insane tournament, and like it was so cool because like I had a bunch of friends there, and like just the support I had, and like even in my stream match, like they were like cheering for me in the crowd, and it was just so fun. So like easily my favorite tournament of all time, and like yeah, the team I absolutely loved too. Like it was a really fun team to play. I'm a big Dondozo fan, but like more than that, like I think it was really cool because I think a lot of people had to prep into like or play into Dondozo, and the team that I hated to face, the New Balance team, was actually okay for me to face because the other 4 Mons were really good into that team, and so that was the cool part of that team where it's like, okay, like I like Terra Water Goldango was really good into that team because Amoonguss couldn't touch it, Gyarados couldn't touch it. I still didn't love facing New Balance, like it still was really hard because Tinglu was just like Assault Vest Tinglu was so hard to break through, but like at least I had modes into it, and I don't know, like I think like Goldango, like a lot of those mons are like some of my favorite mons like of all time now. Like I was literally just thinking about my favorite Pokemon today, and like they just like you just create such a bond with them, you know, like that's just like wow, like I can't believe I had this run with them.
You get
like
so attached to them.
Exactly.
Well,
it's so cool.
I mean, I
wanted to ask you. Oh, sorry, Logan.
No, you go real quick. I mean, just kind of playing off that, like, you know, the connection you had. There were a couple times, and I watched the stream in Milwaukee against, I think it was James, and like where Dondonzo like lived on that last little sliver of life, and it was just like Dondonzo go, and it was amazing. So I love that. That's so fun.
It's funny because like so Dondo, like a bunch of like pretty much every mon on that team is like one of my favorite mons now, but I think my favorite probably is Tatsugiri, honestly. And it's funny because like you don't think of that, but like the stretchy, like it's funny because even to this day I'm actually the most successful stretchy Tatsugiri player ever.
Oh really?
And I've gotten the most points with it, had the most like success with it, and like that thing, it stresses me out every time, but it always pulls through for me because none of its moves are accurate. They can all miss.
Yeah.
But it would always pull through for me, and I was like, Tatsugiri, like I love you. You are just my savior because it would be like the small, like quiet, like you'd never expect it, but like it would do the small things that would just put in so much work that it was I loved it. So for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
Before we hear more about your Worlds team, I do want to have you kind of give us a little more like analytical breakdown on this team, because we're already kind of talking about it right now. And for those listening who we'll flash it on the screen, but for those listening, brought Goldango, like you said, Terra Water, ran Citrus Berry on it, Nasty Plot, Make It Rain, some pretty standard stuff there. But the core, of course, you have the stretchy Tatsugiri that's scarfed. You have the Dondozo there as well, Terra type Grass. To help cut more of a defensive thing, obviously. Assault Vest Glamora, you had Safety Goggles, Talonflame, really good utility there with Tailwind, Quick Guard, Will-O-Wisp, and then of course, Saving Grace with Pama is the Revival Blessing, which is really fun to use if you can get that in there right. So tell us more about like how you built that out. What did you like? Obviously, you're kind of telling us about what you did like a lot of, but did you kind of build the core around Tatsugiri and Dondozo and of course their natural synergy with their abilities, or did you look for something else and then that just happened to complement it? Tell us more about how you built that out.
Yeah, so it's funny because like the way I started playing Dondozo was, so in series 1 and 2, like I was a big like Psy Spam plus like Annihilate player, and like more of a Trick Room player, and I'm still like the two team archetypes that always have my heart are like Psy Spam and like hard Trick Room, or like very Trick Room oriented teams, or like really bulky like offense, like really offensive teams. And so I've been playing Spam and Annihilate and stuff, and Dondozo was always really hard for me to play against, and it was really dominant in Series 1, and like it was still really, really good in Series 2, and I was like, this team is really hard. And so when Reg C came around, I was like, you know what, let me play a Dondozo team and see what it loses to, and then I'll start building from there. And so I took Neil's Neigh VGC's his like Vancouver team, and like it was a Series 2 Dondozo team, and I started playing it a bit, and I was like, I'm not really losing. Like, there's not a lot that's beating this Dondozo, and there was some stuff that was beating it, but then I was like, all right, let me just change up the team a little bit, and it was still like, and then it just was really winning, and I started winning a lot of Limitless tours with it, and so like originally it was Dondozo Tatsugiri, and he was attack boosting Tatsugiri, and he had Palma and Glamora, but he didn't have Talonflame or Goldango. I forget what he had instead. I think he had like Fluttermane and something else. But I was realizing like the stuff that I was losing to, I was like, Talonflame, Goldango. Like I just kind of was looking at what mons were good, and I was like, Goldango seems pretty good into the mons I'm losing to, and like some speed control would be nice. Like Talonflame looks pretty good, and the one tech that I'm really, really proud of that I think was super a unique call, like no one else was running, was Quick Guard, and I think like it was really, really strong pick. So I think the way that the team synergy worked super well was, so there was one mode where it's like, okay, you have Dondozo and Tatsugiri, and Dondozo's an extremely bulky mon, and I built mine out to be fairly bulky actually, and it was Leftovers and Terra Grass, and had the speed boosting Tatsugiri. And so you can go for, and I think what that was really good for was, so there's a lot of mons, like the new mons that they introduced in Series 2 with all the Paradox mons, like Qian Paos and Fluttermanes especially, you can't outspeed them with just base form Dondozo, even with the commander boost. It's just not happening unless they're running a really low variant, right? But you can outspeed them with one speed booster order up. And I think like I think there was a bit of like, okay, people want to get the attack boost, and they got a little greedy, and like you want to outpace the Intimidates, and that's one way to play Dondozo. But I think what was more valuable to me was, and what my philosophy is the best, defense is just not getting hit, and instead of just like trying to like intimidate whatever. And so it's like, okay, if I can take 2 hits, which Dondozo can with the commander boost, and get a speed booster, and now I'm faster and I'm dealing the damage before they can get hits off and start taking KOs, I'm going to live even longer. And that the leftovers and protecting, like, you could really keep Dondozo on the field for a long time. And what really helped pair next to it, which was the Glamora, which had the assault vest, and you got the toxic debris. And so what you could do a lot of times was, okay, I'm going to lead Palma and Glamora, get a fake out off, get a mortal spin, get some poisons down, and then even to KO the Glamora, it was a very physical leaning meta, and so like they usually have to hit Glamora with a physical attack to KO it, because the assault vest also was really like assault vest Glamora was really good into Fluttermane Chi-Yu. It just really couldn't do enough damage into it, and so like usually you'd use physical mons to get rid of the Glamora, and that would just set toxic debris. And so now stuff's getting poisoned on chip in, on the switch in, stuff's just being poisoned when they're on the field, and so now they're slowly dying while Dondozo is doing damage, also slowly healing with each leftovers turn, and you can kind of protect stall them out. And so you can either play a slow game like that, or I could push the pace and I can go like Talonflame Palmot, just get Tailwind and Close Combats off and Brave Birds, or Tailwind and Make It Rains off with Goldango, and so just push the like tempo, get a lot of chip damage off, maybe take a KO early, and then Dondozo was just so strong in the late game that you could just sweep the rest of the team. And like the big intimidator at the time was Gyarados, which hated taking a double shock from Palmot, right? It's just gonna Oko it, and so they had to play around that too. And so there was a little bit of and Fluttermanes were also like kind of varying speeds, but Palmot could usually just Oko Fluttermanes with double shock, which was really nice. Yeah, and so like you could just get rid of a piece early, and then they just lose resources against Dondozo in the late game, and then you can conserve. What was a really cool synergy was, so early Reg C, Palafin Bounce was like the big thing. And so what you could do a lot of times was like you could do some damage with Palmot, and then it had a focus sash. It would live on 1 HP. You switch out to Dondozo, you start doing damage, and then Dondozo goes down. You bring Palmot back out, and you have maybe Talonflame next to it. You can go for a quick guard so that you don't get jet punched or something like extreme speed with Dragonite, and you get a revival blessing off. And now suddenly you have Dondozo back with Tatsugiri, and you can get more Dondozo damage down. And usually you can't deal with 2 rounds of Dondozo. It's really, really hard to remove it twice. And so, and then later in the meta, Qianpao Dragonite became really popular, and you can go for E speed and sucker punches, but quick guard made it so that like quick guard plus Goldengo in front of Qianpao Dragonite, you couldn't sucker punch the Goldengo, you couldn't E-speed the Goldengo, you can't E-speed, and I was Terra Ghost on Talonflame too, so I could even, if I want to, I didn't have to quick guard, I could just like go for a Wisp or something and protect.
Oh yeah.
So there was a lot of options that team had, and I think like the synergies, like I was saying, like the Terra Water Goldengo did super well into like Amoonguss, which Dondozo doesn't like facing against, right? Like Gyarados, stuff like that, and an early Reg C, like I was running Terra Blast on Dondozo with the Terra Grass, so you could like a lot of people's answers to Dondozo was Palafin with Haze, but my Dondozo was EV'd so that it would always outspeed base 100 mons like Chi-Yu and Palafin, and then you could just get the Terra Blast off Oko Palafins before they get a Haze off, and you get around Amoonguss, and suddenly their team doesn't have any answers for Dondozo. So I think early in the meta, it was extremely strong. Later in the meta, it was still strong, but I think you had to have a certain level of comfort with it and just experience with it that I had for it to be good. Otherwise, it was definitely a harder team to like pick up and like start immediately being good at, or even after a little bit be good at later in the meta, just because the meta had shifted so much. But because I had so much experience with it, so much practice with it, and I felt so comfortable with it that even in like I felt like I was playing out of my mind that whole tournament, but like I still had the tools to do what I need to do, and I was so practiced with it. I knew my calcs so well that like I was just able to, you know, get a lot of wins, you know. So it was really, really cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. I also kind of also want to shout out like the tailwind on the Talonflame, which were at least in the match against James that I saw on stream, you were able to like almost outpace, like think ahead and get the speed. Like you were already faster, so which allowed Dodonzo to be able to do the damage, get ahead of the game, but then with the order up, with the stretchy Tatsugiri, you were able to outpace the speed as well, which I thought was a really cool use of the like Tailwind was like almost like just the precursor to the real damage that was coming once you got the permanent speed up, and that was amazing. I love that too.
Yeah, exactly. Like I kind of made it like my objective was like, you're not gonna outspeed me. Like whether you're a Tailwind team, whatever, like I'm gonna make it so that I can have speed control and at least eventually be faster with the order of boosts regardless. And if you're slower than me with the Trick Room teams, then you usually don't have enough to outbulk me with the like outkill me with the Dondozo and deal with like the toxic spikes and the slow poisoning and stuff like that. And so I could usually stall out Tailwind enough. So I think like I had a lot of options that I was just super comfortable with the team, and it did what it needed to do, for the meta that I was playing it in.
I love it. I love it, bro. Now let's kind of get into some of your world's strats. Looking at this team, this team is also incredibly fun. It's got a lot of different tools to look at. So we got Mousehold with Pop Bomb and Wide Lens, Follow Me, U-Turn Taunt, Terra Fairy, which I like as well. We got Torkoal with Weakness Policy, which comes into play along with the Bruxish, where you got Dazzling to prevent those priority moves with Focus Sash, Trick Room, Aqua Jet, which you would often use into the Torkoal. Then you have Ursaluna, which was kind of this is world, so new regulation, new tools to play with, but Ursaluna was one of the fun ones. And then you got Cresselia, and then you had Urshifu, the Wicked Blow variant. Kind of talk a little bit more about the kind of this build, the fun, like what fun you had with it, and how you felt that it worked. Any favorites on this team as well?
Yeah, I see a lot of crazy offense here.
Yeah, it was a. This was probably my favorite team that I've ever built. It was honestly super super cool. So, um,
Yep.
it was so after Reg C ended and they announced Reg D with all the new tools and Urshifu especially. Dondozo didn't feel super strong anymore because you could just kind of fake out spam with Rillaboom and then crit through Urshifu, and I couldn't protect and leftover stall, and it just wasn't feeling right anymore. And so, kind of like I said actually earlier in the episode, like I have like two really big archetypes that I'm a big fan of is Trick Room and like the more offensive one. And so I was like, all right, offense is not working, like let me go to Trick Room. And I think what was really interesting was like for the first time ever they did Worlds like as a new format, like the first tournament in a brand new format, which they don't usually do. It's usually the culmination, like normally, like if it was a normal world, it probably would have been Reg C because we've been playing Reg C for so long. They usually do like one last tour to cap it off, but this time they did a brand new tournament and like or a brand new format. And what I think like is always really good at the beginning of a new format is like hard trick room, because most people see okay, like Torn was introduced, everyone wanted to play with Urshifu, everyone's just really running fast teams, and they always just want to outspeed each other, and people I think weren't respecting Trick Room enough. And not even that, it's just like usually they run like people don't really figure out the perfect balance comps early on in a format. They usually like it takes some time for people to build that out, and like those balance comps, once they perfect it, like then it can you know how to handle Trick Room, you know how to handle the hyper offense. But earlier on in the format, hyper offense and the hard trick rooms can thrive a little bit more. And so I was like, all right, let me turn to trick room and see what I can do there. And I like was seeing okay, like Qianpao Dragonite is really good, Rillaboom is back, and with Grassy Glide spam, that's really good. And I was like, okay, let me look at Trick Room setters. Like I know that Farigiraf was like a mod that like had been introduced this gen. I was like, all right, like it has the cool ability with Armor Tail that prevents priority. Let me try that out with the Trick Room team. And like I feel like Torkoal can do a lot of damage in this format. So I was like, let me try some Trick Room Torkoal and see where I can go. And I like Mousehold as a follow me option. I really like follow me next to Trick Room. It's just a really consistent way to get up Trick Room. And so I was like, okay, should I go in DD? Should I go something else? And I was like, all right, let me go Mousehold and have an option where I can actually get damage off, because I was realizing like the speed tiers of the Mons that were like going to be really popular were like a little bit slower. Like Urshifu was like fast, but not like base 100 fast or faster, and Mousehold was actually a pretty fast mon. It hits 179 max speed, but I really wanted to just pick up like every KO that I could, and so I went adamant actually with max speed and max attack, which speed ties with max speed Urshifu, but a lot of Urshifus weren't also running max speed. A lot of them were running a little bit bulkier. They were running a little bit bulkier with Mystic Water or something like that, and so and then Rillabooms were slower, and if I can prevent priority, then I don't have to worry about fake out, stuff like that. I can just go for pop bombs, and I think people forgot at that point, because Mousehold wasn't really, like, offensive Mousehold hadn't been a thing since, like, Series 1, maybe Series 2. And so people
like
forgot about it
right.
through Reg C, and I was like, this is kind of a nuke. Like, this really picks up a lot of KOs, and so I was like, okay, let me try to build something around Mousehold, Torkoal, Farigiraf, and Farigiraf just felt like it wasn't doing anything, and I was like, this is not doing much damage, and like, I don't know, I don't love it. And so I was like, all right, what other mon has like what, like, I can set Trick Room, and I was looking at other mons that can set Trick Room, and I was like, oh, Bruxish has like the same ability as Farigiraf, with like Dazzling is the exact same thing as Armor Tail, prevents the priority. I was like, I can go for a weakness policy proc on my Torkoal and just destroy everything. And so I was like, okay, if I just go for Terrifier and then go for Aqua Jets into myself, and like then I get priority and I can like go before like Amoonguses and stuff like that. And so like I was like, okay, this is actually kind of a cool concept. And so I was like, all right, let me go with Mousehold, Bruxish, weakness policy Torkoal, and then my friend and I had been talking a little bit, and he was talking about his own team. He was like trying to build something not for Worlds, just for like online tournaments, and he was like, "What do you think about like slow Urshifu, like water?" And I was like, "I don't know, like, it kind of seems." And then I thought about it more, and I was like, "I don't love slow Urshifu water, but slow Urshifu dark sounds kind of awesome." And so I went with like min speed. I slapped a min speed Urshifu on there with Life Orb and Terra Dark, and I was like, this thing like just picks up Okos on neutral like hits, like for a lot of mons. Like it would Oko a lot of just Heatrans, like with Wicked Blow. Like if they would Terra Grass, doesn't matter, it would just Oko. Like it would pick up a lot of Goldengos even after it Terra'd, or with like the slightest bit of chip damage. Like you go for Psychic Fangs plus Wicked Blow, and it would just die, even if it was Terra Water or whatever. And so I was like, this thing is crazy. And then I can also go through Cresselia's, which is like a bulkier mon that's a little bit harder to remove with just the Torkoal stuff. And I was like, okay, like, and it can reverse Trick Room, which was annoying. And so I was like, okay, wow, Urshifu Dark, like, and people weren't expecting my Urshifu Dark to underspeed their Heatran, stuff like that. And so I was like, you're picking up a little bit, like, I think that's where the nuance comes in of like open team sheet, sure, like your opponents know your stuff, but they don't know. You can be a little bit, you can have some surprises with EVs and stuff like that, and like not unconventional builds that really catches your opponent off guards in like game one and stuff like that. And so it was really good on ladder, and then I was like losing a little bit to Flutter Chi-Yu stuff, and so I was like, okay, let me slap on like a really bulky a Trick Room setter. And so actually originally I had a Rangaroo because I was like, okay, let me like go with Instruct stuff, like that'll be fun. But it wasn't doing enough, and I was like, it's not living enough hits either, and I really want the Bruxish. I feel like that's
bulky enough, really.
Like you can make it bulky, but like it's still like it has the same weaknesses, and like it's just like Cresselia was like is crazy bulky, and so I was like, okay, like let me put Cresselia. And like Amoonguss was also a bit of an annoying issue where like if you go for Terra Water, like usually the Terra Water Amoongusses were still like living on a sliver, but they were living the +2 Terrafire eruptions from Torkoal because Amoonguss is just busted. And so I was like, okay, Lunar Blessing is a really good move in Trick Room. And so let me have a Goggles, Cresselia, and then Ursaluna is just crazy. And like Heatran was also an issue with like I had like Heatran plus Iron Hands was a little bit of an issue, and like I was like, okay, like having another option into those mons without just having to rely on Urshifu, because Urshifu still doesn't like facing Iron Hands. And then if like, because it would still underspeed and you get the Drain Punch off, and then it's like, okay, even then like I have to time it really well where I'm able to hit the Heatran, otherwise I'm gonna lose. So I'm like, okay, let me go Ursaluna, and that's another mon that doesn't care about Amoonguss with the Flame Orb activation. So I was like, okay, let me go Ursaluna and Cresselia, and it gives me a little bit more of a bulky mode too, where I can just go Lunar Blessings, maybe get a second Trick Room up, and I can also put Helping Hand on it so that I get a lot of damage out of my Ursaluna, even through Intimidate, so like Lando and stuff. Or I could just bring the Torkoal too, or the Urshifu, which was my favorite, just going Helping Hand, Terra Dark, Life Orb, Wicked Blow. Just like Oko. I was like, it would Oko Flutter Mains after it Terra Fairied, which was crazy.
Oh, man. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it was like a resisted hit still with just Oko. So that was kind of how I rounded out the team. And then originally I was Terra Ghost on the Mouse Hole. I changed it to Terra Poison because I really wanted to like live a Moon Blast from Flutter Mane, and then I put the Focus Sash on Bruxish because I was like, okay, but I still made it like fairly like pretty bulky so that I could take like a double spread move, but I can also take like if they just Oko the Mouse Hold and then like Wood Hammer my Bruxish, like I still live on 1 HP, still get my Trick Room up, and I can get the Weakness Policy stuff
on Torkoal
up afterwards. And so I think what was a really cool combination was like just leading Mousehold Bruxish, and like people would leave like Rillaboom, Urshifu, or like Torn something like Urshifu, and I could just go for a Pop Bomb, Oko and Urshifu, or Oko Rillabooms, Oko Torns, or something like that. So because a lot of people's way of dealing with Trick Room is like, okay, we need to just position properly, not let them take too many, like not let them take KOs early, especially, and just outlast it, and then not let them get a second Trick Room up. But if you take a KO on turn 1 and get Trick Room up on turn 1 without taking any like damage from one mon, like now they have less resources, and you have speed control, and you have like just like these nukes in Trick Room, like they're just gonna fold. So
Right.
it was like I was like making a bit of a meta call where I was like, okay, like I think Trick Room's gonna be good, and then I ended up getting like rank one, like I ended up getting over 2,000 ELO on Showdown ladder, which was like, and got rank 1 with it, and I was like, this is insane, like this is super busted. And then even so, then I was like, all right, and I told all my friends, I was like, I literally built a building group called the Fish Tank and had Bruxis as the picture, and it's actually become like just like my building group now. But originally the purpose was like, okay, everyone help me build, like a bunch of my close friends was like, help me practice for Worlds. And then they were like, Bruxis, like really, like what are you doing, man?
They were like, what are you doing?
And I was like, bet, like let's, like trust me, let's play practice games. And I was like,
Trust me.
just destroying all of them, and I was like, they were like,
It'll put
what
in work,
is
man,
this
I
team?
promise.
Like it was crazy. And so I was like feeling really good going into Worlds, and I think even at Worlds it was a really good call. Like in all the games I played, like I started 3-0 in sets, and then fell to 3-2, but ended up getting 4-2 and then losing my win in. But it never felt like a team issue, really. It felt like
Right.
the team was a great call. It was putting in a ton of work. There were like some tricky matchups here and there, but it just felt like, okay, like it's Worlds, you're gonna lose some 50-50s at the end of the turn, like in the later rounds of day one. Like that's just gonna happen. You're playing against very good players, and so sometimes it doesn't go your way. Like, but still, like I think it wasn't like I was like, let me just bring this and like try to get one win at Worlds. Like that would be cool, you know, like I got a win at Worlds, I can say that. And then I ended up going like almost making day 2, going positive in my first Worlds. Like I was super happy with that team. And then I got that team featured on Cybertron's channel, which was really, really cool. So that it was like the most creative team I think I've ever built, like, and definitely the most underused mon like I've ever, like Bruxis was a really crazy pick, but I think it was a really cool and like meta call, and like Psychic Fangs was good for breaking screens. Like it was just a really cool pick that I think people like obviously weren't prepared for, but like it was funny because I'd play people at Worlds and they would be like, "Oh, you were that guy playing on ladder, like beating me on high ladder." Like, yep, that was
That's
me.
so funny. That was me.
It was a really cool team. It still has a special place in my heart.
That's so cool, and I love that.
It's cool to see that.
And I was just gonna say, I kind of love to see. I mean, you like to think of, you know, which tools will get you out of any situation, and I kind of love that because it makes it so that you know, piloting a team can be, you know, so interesting. Where a lot of times it can just have 1 to 2 gimmicks, but you have like 5 or 6. You're thinking about, you know, what happens if, you know, I come up against this set, but then, you know, Pop Bomb Mousehole coming back into play was amazing because I love seeing Pop Bomb at the beginning of the season too, just because Mousehole was kind of seen, like I remember in the trailers of the game, kind of like, what the heck is that thing, you know?
Yeah,
it's kind of a meme, and so like seeing just like I just like Mousehole like in general design wise, and I just love seeing it get such a highlight. And then Bruxish has always been, you know, I mean, even now it's, what were we saying, Josh, when we were looking at like 0.66%?
Yeah, I was
right
actually
now?
to bring that up. Yeah, right now for Reg E, it's 0.66% usage. And funny enough, the heavy teammates are Urshifu, Mousehold, Oranguru, Ursaluna, Blood Moon, Torkoal, Ursaluna. So it's cool to see that.
It's just cool to see you kind of directing and finding that niche usage there for it. So that's awesome. Congrats there. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It was actually really cool because they were like I like actually played at a local recently where someone brought my team and like played with it, and like I was like, that's crazy. And then like someone actually top cut a tour in Brazil, like a regional in Brazil, in Reg D, or I think it was Reg D, yeah, with my team, which was like insane. Like I was like, someone actually like top cut a regional with this after like I made it public and everything, and like it was just cool to see like me, like I would hop on like Showdown afterwards, and like after the Cybertron video, and people were just using my team against me, and I was like, jokes on you, I know how to beat this, but like it was really, really cool to see. So yeah, definitely a favorite team of mine.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it.
That's awesome. And we want to ask you one more question before we hop into kind of like our rapid fire round, where we have some rapid fire questions for you, and then some shower thoughts, just kind of fun, miscellaneous Pokemon related questions. But one thing we were curious about is there at Worlds there were some LAN issues, some connection issues. Officials had a lot of the competitors do sudden death in order to finalize some of the results. Sometimes it wouldn't work out in people's favor. I know there's a lot of uproar about that. I watched a lot of videos of people talking about it. In fact, Pokemon Challenges, big YouTube channel, he mostly does Nuzlocke, but he interviewed a lot of big time VGC guys who went to Worlds, and whether it was checking for legit mons, like clean mons, or if it was a connection issue, people just talking about the experience of the tournament itself. So I want to ask you, I mean, what do you think would be some good ideas to do in a situation like that in the future? Like, is there anything you'd change? Is there anything that you would like to see? Is there anything that you think that they do well in events of disconnections or anything like that?
Yeah, I think like the disconnection issue was just like, it's just a really brutal situation that I don't think there was like, I mean, I think like once it had happened, I really don't like sudden like I don't think there was much to do after that besides like playing maybe like a sudden death game or something. But
it's tough.
Like, I don't think that like I think the problem was like something like that even happening at Worlds. Like you'd expect like the biggest event of the year, like held in the home country of Japan. Like you expect, like you really want it to be run flawlessly, and like it's not like one blemish here or there, I think, is like, okay, like, you know what, stuff like that happens, like it's out of control. But like it was like a LAN that like disconnected like all of top 16 at that point, and like I think that's just like I think there has to just be like stuff in place where like that's not even a possibility, because that's just like it's just a really really rough way to go out. And
it is.
Like there's no, I don't think anything was on any of the players. Like if I was one of the players and like I'm losing that situation, like you're taking the game, it's Worlds, like you are gonna do what you can to continue on. But like it shouldn't have been on the players to figure that situation out. It should be on the tournament organizers. I think the DQ issue about like the legit mons versus gen mons and stuff like that, I think that issue is more that could have been preventable by like enforcing that like the same standard at like previous events, so that people are prepared and they know. Like I don't think introducing that level of scrutiny that they had at Worlds was like, because people are flying, like they're paying for tickets all the way across the world to compete in like the event of like there were some players that like had competed all season to get an auto day 2 invite and were disqualified. Like that is, I think that's just a really unfair thing to do to someone that like have the precedent. If you have the precedent early on and then they're DQ'd, like they have fallen into that same issue, that's on them, right? But if it's something that you're like introducing, like they've passed everything at every tournament up until this point, and then you're introducing a new system at Worlds specifically and you're going to DQ them, I think that's a bit unfair. I know that there's like people who are going to argue both sides of that. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I agree with you. I think you need to have that standard throughout and step it up, Nintendo. All right. We've had a lot of fun talking about VGC, getting into your specific run. Now we're going to kind of get into our rapid fire round. This is kind of where we throw you some questions. You kind of throw off the top of your head what you think. So the first one that we have for you is, what do you think is probably the most important thing to do to mentally prepare for a tournament? Just kind of off the top of your head.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is having confidence and comfort going in. Like I think like for me personally, like I think like ladder games and stuff like that can affect my confidence quite a bit, and so like I am very careful about like grinding ladder like the day before a big tournament or something like that. I usually like stay up ladder, like have a little bit more of like I'll usually like if the tournament's on Saturday, on Thursday I'll probably play my like last bit of like real games and then like end off on like a good win or like a win streak or something. And then like Friday I'm usually like just traveling, taking it easy, like usually focusing on other stuff. Maybe I'll play one game of showdown or something like that, one or two, but like really don't want to let anything like get my confidence down, and then really go into the day with just feeling like, hey, like, you know what? I know my team. Like, I'm gonna go in with confidence. I feel like I can, win every set. Let me go in with that mentality, and then having comfort in your team is important. Like, I think like there's a lot of players that can, there's a lot of really high level players that can pick up a team like the day before a tournament or like 2 days before a tournament and go in and win. But I think for the majority of people, like, I think it's really important to like, okay, at least have some level of comfort. Like, even if you picked it up a week before, like, play enough that week that you feel like, okay, I feel comfortable with this team. Like, I'm not like learning stuff like new every single round on the team. Like, you want to have to know your general stuff into like the common teams and stuff like that, and then feel, because that feeling of comfort is going to allow you to make plays that you wouldn't if you were uncomfortable and didn't know like certain like stuff, like calcs and stuff like that. So I think comfort always helps.
I love that. I love that.
I love that. So for our next one, we were already kind of touching on this earlier. You made Bruxish a household name. Are there any other underrated mons out there this season for VGC that really stand out to you, or do you see any other mon that maybe has some potential for some niche usage?
Yeah, I think I mean, I guess it's funny because I think like the non-common, like the uncommon Ogerpon forms are underexplored, like the just the standard grass version or like the rock version. I think both of them like have some stuff that going for it that are like really strong. Like Sturdy as an ability is just like basically a free focus sash, and then you can also just Terra, get the defense boost, and go for like really strong rock moves. And it's just, I think like there's more to that mod that can be explored. And then same with like the teal mass, like having Defiant as an ability is really good, especially with a Lando-centric meta, and then being able to Terra, speed boost, and just outspeed Chanpao's, Fluttermane, stuff like that. It's really strong. So like, and I think there, like, we saw recently, like, both of those forms get top 8 at a regional, where the other, like, the water form and the fire form didn't actually. But I think like those were only on like 2 teams from like 2 maybe unconventional team builders. I think there's more room to explore those 2 forms of the Ogerpon.
I love that. I love that. All right, now we're gonna kind of get into some more of our shower thoughts. This isn't necessarily just for VGC, but this is just kind of fun, like, ideas that we have. And you have about Pokemon, the world throughout the day, things like that, right? So this is kind of a fun one, and it can relate to VGC a little bit too. Is what signature ability, so like Water Bubble, like the sort of Ruin, and those things, like, would you extend to other species of Pokemon? Like, it would make sense to give them.
Interesting. So like to any specific mon, or just general more distribution?
Yeah, general more distribution, or a specific mon. So like, for example, like Water Bubble, you could give it to something else, like a specific species that you think it would make sense on.
Interesting. First, I hope that Unseen Fist never gets any more distribution. I hope that stays too specific. And
there's some that don't need to go anywhere else.
I think that never needs to get any more. That's an interesting one. I always think it's cool to have some more Defiant mons or competitive, especially. I think there's not really any good like Milotic is like an okay competitive mon, but generally like there's not a lot of good competitive users, and I think like having stuff that's anti-intimidate is really nice, and I don't think there's a ton, like, they've added Clear Amulet and stuff like that to have some sort of counterplay to intimidate, but I think like item usage is also like item hold like is very valuable for a lot of other stuff too. Like usually you don't want to use Clear Amulet, so I think like having something like competitive could be really cool, because then you get the +2 and not just +1 from like a Defiant, for example, with Intimidate. So I think that's something that would be cool. And Inner Focus too. I think like having more stuff that like is again immune to Fake Out, immune to Intimidate, and then also immune to Fake Out, like that would allow for a little bit more counterplay to stuff that like super common, like Iron Hands and stuff like that. So like I don't think it always has to go to like super hyper offensive mons like Dragonite, like Choice Band and stuff like that. But I think like having some more like, because I think those abilities would actually like really translate to VGC really well, and I think that would be cool to see more of. I also like I think Water Bubble's also a cool pick. I think that'd be a cool one to have more distribution. But
yeah,
I would like to see more competitive mons, especially.
One thought I had was I think Hospitality, the new one with what's it called? Oh my goodness, yeah. That it should go to like Blissey and Chansey. That line I think should get Hospitality. I just think that would make sense, and it'd be kind of interesting to see them kind of get that ability.
I think that would make sense, like in terms of like their mons lore, I guess everything. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm. So,
all right, we got another one last shower thought question for you before we wrap up here. Let's say that you're the Pokemon champion. You get to decide who your Elite Four is. So who are you choosing from gym leaders, previous Elite Four members, Battle Frontier members, or even just for fun, if you want to pick some competitive players from real life, who are you using to fill out your Elite Four if you're if Conk is the champion?
That's a good question. Okay, so
friends, enemies, people in game. It can be out of universe, in universe, whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay. I would go. I think Cynthia has to be there. Cynthia's just like a legend.
Classic.
I mean,
yeah.
I also love that Gen 4, so I think I would have to go with Cynthia.
Love it.
I think I'd have to go with Wolf Glick. I think just probably I'll keep it like he's just probably one of the best Pokemon players of all time. If it's not, it's probably the best Pokemon player of all time or a VGC player of all time. And I'll go Ray Rizzo as well because he was a 3-time world champion, and that's just insane to me. So I think for VGC wise, I'll fill out half VGC. So I'll say those two plus Cynthia, and then I think I'm trying to think. I personally like Flint a lot. I don't know why. I
like it.
Yeah.
I
dig it.
I was always like a fan of Flint. I'm like a big Infernape fan, and so like I was like always cool that he used Infernape, and I don't know. I like Flint, so I guess he would be in my
there you go
as well. Yeah.
I love it, man. The Gen 4 love. I respect that. So, and hey, I mean, you're the champion above them all. So, I mean, you can say that you're, Wolf Glick's below you. So,
yeah. One day.
You're oh yeah, right. There you go. That's awesome, man. Good stuff. Well, hey, no, again, we appreciate it, man. We really wanted to bring you on so you could kind of, strut your stuff, share what you've learned, share what you've experienced, and it was a treat for us. Like Logan was saying, we spent the last little bit doing some research and kind of catching up on your feats, your team, and it's really awesome to hear you go through that. And it's clear that you have such a sharp mind, especially with Pokemon. We've interviewed some other VGC guys over the last little bit since we've picked up the podcast, and it's been a treat. And again, you're definitely no exception. So before we sign off here, we'd love to hear, first and foremost, plug anything that you have coming up. Of course, your podcast, anything else that you have on the docket over the next little bit, and then leave us with some nuggets of wisdom, whether that's related to Pokemon, whether that's related to life. Leave the people with some knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I think like my main thing is the Chilling Neigh podcast. You can find it on YouTube. We have a Twitter account, on Spotify, pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. So that one's super fun. Do it every 2 weeks with Sableye VGC and Tom Hayden. We review the meta, talk life, and stuff like that. So
love it.
Please go check it out. It's honestly, truly like a ton of fun to do every couple weeks. So love that. And then in terms of nuggets of wisdom, I would say I think the big thing to remember at the end of the day is like for VGC especially, like just I think a lot of people can get stressed out over the game and get like let it put you in a bad mood if like stuff doesn't go your way. I think the big thing is we're all Pokemon fans at the end of the day, and we're all just trying to have fun and, you know, make sure that it makes you happy. So, you know, take mental health breaks when you need it, like, and come back to the game when you're feeling like you're gonna have a good time with it. Play fun teams, play silly mons every once in a while, you know, like throw a Bruxish on your team. Maybe it turns out to be good, you know. So, but also at the same time, you know, always be, I think, self-aware, and, you know, always, I mean, if you're trying to be, you know, a world's competitor, always look to how you can get better. Always, you know, take that feedback. And I think a lot of people can also get to be a little bit defensive and get stubborn and stuck in their ways. And I think the biggest way that I've improved is just always being open to, hey, I could have done this better, I could have done this better. And at the end of the day, you know, winning is the best players are always winning consistently. So if I'm not, then that's on me. You know, that's not, it can't always be blamed on something else. So, you know, maybe once in a while I'm losing to hacks and stuff like that. But if I'm losing to hacks every single time, that's something I'm doing wrong. Or if I'm, you know, losing in this situation, that's something I'm doing wrong. So whether it's a team thing, whatever, I think I pride myself in always trying to get better and be self-aware. And I think that's a really good way to get better. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're all just, you know, trying to be happy. So I think that's the biggest thing, is make sure Pokemon is a source of happiness for you.
100%. That's so good, man. So good. Those were the juiciest of wisdom nuggets from our friend over here. So that was perfect, man. We're gonna sign off on that. Again, we appreciate you hopping on. We'll plug everything. We'll plug Chilling Neigh. Everything else. It's been an absolute treat. Go follow Conk on Twitter. I mean, I would keep saying Twitter. It's X now. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I still say tweet too. I guess technically it's post now, but I still say tweet. But yeah, whatever. We'll link that specific social media profile as well in our description, so you can check them out there. Be sure to like and subscribe to us as well, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening to us. And until next time, this is Josh, Logan, and Rushil with Skill Link signing out.
Bye, everyone.